Today on the Video Creator Show, I'm speaking with Ken Dusman of Gateway Classic Cars. For over 23 years, Gateway Classic Cars has been the world's largest classic and exotic car sales company, with 20 showrooms across the United States, featuring over 2,500 classics and exotics valued at $100 million for sale every day. There is always something for every car enthusiast. They have sold, delivered, shipped over $600 million in classics and exotics and have delighted over 60,000 buyers and sellers globally. Gateway Classic Cars, as you may have guessed, also has a YouTube channel which showcases the gorgeous cars from their showrooms. The channel currently sits at 154,000 subscribers and over 89 million total channel views. Ken, I'm excited to speak with you today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Grant. Excited to talk to you.
Start something this large scale. I'm guessing it started small and then just kind of grew from there. So could you take us through like the early days of the company?
So we started in 1999. Our original showroom was in Fairmont City, Illinois. We are just on the Illinois side of the Mississippi River. And in 2014, we had an opportunity to move over into our current location. It used to be a previous electronics and furniture store. A vast difference from our original showroom. This facility is 120,000 square feet. Not only do we have all of the vehicles, and we are a registered museum with the Illinois Department of Tourism, but we're also an event venue. And we hold concerts, weddings, anniversary parties, surprise birthday parties, business conferences. We have several different event areas, and we can accommodate from 5 to 500 and upwards. So it's a very versatile location, and it offers a lot more than what our original location had to offer. And as we went along through those first handful of years, you know, as with the economy and the industry had ups and downs, but there was an identified need for the services that we provided in other markets. And so we started looking into different areas geographically, taking a look at the vehicles for sale, the car club culture, and just kind of went through a lot of that analysis. And we started our expansion. And we headed over to Louisville. And from that Louisville showroom, we now have Nashville, Louisville, Indy, Chicago, and then north of Chicago, we've got Detroit and Milwaukee. We go right now as far west as Las Vegas and Scottsdale. We are just a few weeks away from opening our Central Texas showroom, which is in New Braunfels, Texas. We have one in Dallas, we have one in Houston, so this will give us the opportunity to service that entire part of the state. And then our 20th showroom is going through some of its final building and permitting in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we're very excited for both of these showrooms to become part of our network.
Yeah, wow. So you guys are expanding pretty rapidly at this point. I saw all the locations on your website, and you named. Did you even name all of them? There was so many on there.
So we go as far east, northeast as Philly, and I've got 3 showrooms in Florida, and I've got Atlanta, Kansas City, Denver. You know, we've got a pretty big footprint across the country. And we've always been in a position to expand. COVID slowed our ability to expand for about a year and a half. And we're getting back into our groove. And after Charlotte, we've already got the facility in Tulsa squared away. And we're working on getting that built out to our showroom specs. And once we have all that, I think August, September is going to be when we're going to be open in Tulsa.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have some pretty aggressive expansion plans. And what we found is that there's a genuine need and excitement in all of these markets for somebody who's got the history and the passion for classic cars, as Gateway has over more than 2 decades. And to really be in we're not just car sales. We're not a dealership. We actually try to become part of the community. We host events once a month where we can feature car clubs. We can reach out to the local collectors and car clubs and enthusiasts and let them enjoy what we get to enjoy every day walking through our office.
Hmm. That's wonderful. I think it's really cool that you actually incorporate yourselves into the community. I think a lot of large companies, they just kind of move into a location and they kind of just try to make money. But it kind of seems like since day one, you've always been about hosting events at your locations, or at least it sounds like once you had your second location that was a bit bigger and better than your first, you were kind of able to form a community around it. And so, like, one question I did have is when you launched your YouTube channel, you guys post a lot of videos. I mean, it seems about 10 videos a day. So clearly you have a ton of cars running through all your showrooms. Like, how has posting to YouTube affected the business? I assume it's made it easier to get your name out there. It's increased the amount of eyeballs who see you. Like, how much do you feel that YouTube is a part of your marketing, like percentage-wise?
YouTube is a huge percentage of our marketing. About 70% of our vehicles are bought out of market, which means 70% of the vehicles that I sell out of my St. Louis showroom are going to be going transported to the destination. And YouTube really helps us bridge that gap. There is no such thing as buying anything sight unseen in the digital age. COVID made video conferencing ubiquitous, and everybody's much more comfortable with the technology. But when we have our videos for the vehicles, that really helps answer a lot of questions and showcases a lot of the nuances of that individual vehicle. And every one of our vehicles has its own nuance. It has its own story. And in some cases, our videos may not be filled with burnouts and spinning tires and, all the hot rodding. We really have this performance presentation video, which appeals to the people who are looking to find themselves behind the wheel. And we want to be able to present all of the aspects of the vehicle in an open fashion. We have great engagement. We've got videos from our events and different things that we have going on, but speaking directly to the people who are interested in buying these vehicles, the YouTube channel is very effective in being able to put our content in front of them and let them enjoy.
Hmm. Yeah, and this is one thing I like to mention to people is YouTube is fantastic for really showcasing whatever product it is that you have. You can show everything from all angles. I mean, it seems most of your videos are just driving a car around and showing the interior, showing all the angles. Like there's no secrets. I feel you really can get a feel for what somebody is going to be buying when they look at your videos. And clearly, like if they're going to put as much money into a car as they will, it's important that they know what they're getting. So YouTube, especially for large purchases like this, it's essential that you really put out what you're selling and you show what is there. And YouTube is like a really powerful kind of new age marketing tool for that. So how did you get into YouTube? Like, was it just kind of spur of the moment? You decided to do it. You picked up a camera. Was it like very methodical? Did you have a team? Can you walk us through that process?
Sure. So as the social media scene and footprint expanded, we tried to be on the forefront of all of that different, channel offerings. At the same time, we were expanding our footprint, which gave volume to what we were trying to achieve. So whether it's a Facebook Live or a YouTube setup, we started out knowing that this was going to be our best way to communicate with our customers and the enthusiasts. So it was pretty deliberate. Obviously from a technical standpoint, having the videos embedded right there on the website, back in the day made a huge difference. Not everybody was doing that. And we actually, were able to gain a lot of momentum and a lot of successes where other dealerships and other companies in this realm, they weren't taking advantage of the technology. And you had talked about our volume. We bring in between 80 to 100 vehicles per week. Every vehicle that comes in gets over 100 high definition photos and that video. So if you can kind of put that in context as far as how much we are providing to the platform, but because these videos really showcase the personality of the car, we don't take them down. You could probably go back through our channel and find videos from cars back in 2015, 2016, because that's where the fans and the enthusiasts come in, where they can sit down and they can watch some videos and they can have a little travel back in time checking it out without necessarily coming down to one of our showrooms if we don't have one in the neighborhood. And we'll get calls every once in a while from somebody calling about a vehicle that we haven't had in our inventory for an extended period of time. But looking at all the engagements, they stand the test of time, especially if we just have a really cool and unique video. A vehicle comes in and, it may be a custom job or, a really unique import. People just love being able to immerse into the vehicle. And what it does is it allows us from being simply a spectator. As I had said earlier, you can get thousands of videos of people spinning tires and coming around corners at full speed. This is an experience to put yourself behind the wheel and imagine yourself in that environment. And it's been very effective. It's one of our strongest suits, being able to showcase the vehicles in that digital fashion.
Yeah, and then having this huge backlog where people can just watch videos for cars that may have been sold like 7 years ago. I think there's a lot of power in a huge backlog. People can kind of just. I found your videos kind of relaxing and cool. Like you just kind of watch this awesome car driving around and see it from all angles. And as if somebody's a huge car enthusiast, I can see them just kind of clicking around your channel for hours. And I feel like at the very least that builds recognition for your company, and and then once somebody watches enough of your videos start popping up on their home feed, and then you've kind of like infiltrated their mind. That's a weird way of putting it, but it's effective and it works, and I think that's really awesome.
I've heard stories too of people who might be in the restoring process of their vehicle, going through and pulling up one of our videos so they can actually see how the piece or parts were supposed to be aligned as they're putting the vehicle back together and bringing it back to life. So it helps in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, and that's the power of YouTube for sure. So YouTube is clearly a huge part of your marketing, and it's made a huge difference in your company. But kind of, we touched on this a little earlier, like the early days. I find some of the more interesting stories with starting a company, they can come from the early days, kind of getting off the ground. So like your original showroom, your first location, what went into making that a success? Like, can you walk us through kind of the original plan and kind of the first big breaks?
So the first thing that any business needs to do is understand its audience and know its customer base. And our owner, Sal, who opened up the original location in 1999, he did an amazing job of networking and reaching out to the community. We had talked earlier about us hosting events and becoming part of the overall culture. Through some of those early days, and again, we're talking, so long ago that everything digital now really didn't exist to that extent. But really working with the car clubs and the car collectors. People who live and breathe this chrome day in and day out. And if they aren't looking to buy or sell a car, they usually know who would. So it was a lot of word of mouth. It was a lot of sweat and effort to really reach out and engage. And there was a point where we saw the recipe starting to come together, and that was really the spark that led us to move into other areas. As with everything, we kind of learned as we went along. But having the digital marketing side has always been Sal's focus. That has been able to help propel us, a lot further into where we are now. And you can go back to the Wayback Machine and you can see our old website and you can see how we were presenting things back then. We learned a bunch of different lessons along the way, what works, what doesn't. And it's really about connection and momentum. That's really what it boils down to. It sounds a little oversimplified, but that is what it's about. I know that people trust us, and I know that because of how long we've been doing what we've been doing and how receptive everybody is when we do come into a market, when we do hold events. There's just such an excitement, and and some people, we've got enthusiasts, we have fans, and then we have a customer base. People come down here to our showroom just to walk backwards in time. The two most often used phrases I hear are I used to have one of those, insert your make, model, vehicle, however you wish, and I wish I had never sold it. The other one is, that's the one my dad/grandfather had. That's what I learned to drive on. Everybody's got an emotional connection in a different way. And one of the ways that we've really been able to capitalize on the new audience since COVID is through YouTube. One of the things early on in COVID, there were a lot of different states that were on a lot of different lockdowns and quarantines and all that dynamic. But do you remember back in that early 2020 phase where a bunch of cars would drive by and honk and do a drive-by birthday, or if there was a sick child or an old parent's birthday? Do you remember all of that activity going on?
Sure, yeah.
So we worked with a number of car clubs in a number of markets when those opportunities presented themselves. We can't just grab our cars and take them out on the road. They're on consignment. But we do work, and our relationship with the car clubs allowed us to fulfill a lot of those different things. And as I was noticing, those videos were going viral, and it exposed the classic car experience to a large number of people that may not otherwise have been part of it. No matter what state you were in, no matter what level of lockdown or quarantine or restrictions, the one thing we were all able to do from the very beginning of the pandemic was drive. And when people were maybe not going to Disney World, but they really saw the opportunity to get out in a convertible and hit the road and enjoy that experience, it's opened up what we do to an entirely different audience. And YouTube was absolutely pivotal in making that happen.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And so I guess kind of one thing that I like to talk to people about is your mindset going into starting all of this. So this podcast is essentially about building a business out of something you're passionate about. And a lot of people, they probably have something in their head or in their heart that they feel like they would love to kind of turn into something more official. I'm guessing that from a very early age, you were very passionate about cars. I saw your YouTube trailer where you talk about a connection with a car that you had. So clearly cars have been a part of your life since day one, essentially. But how did you know that this was right for you? It's a big risk to start something like this. And how did you know that it was worth the risk?
It really comes down to passion. So when you look at what we do, we'll take a vehicle, somebody who's trying to find it a new home. It's corny, but I consider us the world's largest classic car adoption agency. We find new homes for people's babies. And I know, because I hear it and I experience it here at my showroom, how much love and passion is in each vehicle that's here. Here's an example. Back in 2019, I happened to be talking with an elderly couple. They had just brought in their 1929 Model T. They were at the age where they could really no longer enjoy it and give it as much of the attention that they felt it deserved. So they made a decision to work with us to find it a new home. And he restored it from the ground up. And he was telling me that when they went in and they removed the back seats, they actually found an original swath of fabric that they used for the original production line when the car was made. And they were able to use that to restore it as close to the original as possible. Every vehicle in my showroom has a story, and my job on the marketing side is to tell that story. But we're really just connecting people, and we're passing along that passion, and that's what made it so exciting. I mean, sure, every business has its startups, but when you really get in and listen to the people talk about their cars, and then you can turn around and find that perfect new home for it, it makes the process pretty streamlined and exciting. One of the biggest things that we did have, working so far out front on the digital age than other entities, is working with people who are out of our area. And we've sold all over this world. And so YouTube, and even more recently over the last 5-8 years, the video conferencing technology where you can do a live video walkthrough of the car, it's helped connect the dots. It's helped build that trust factor when somebody who's looking at buying a car. But it is singularly about passion. I have vehicles that I absolutely love for my reasons. One of my other team members, it may not be for them. My graphic designer is restoring a 1974 Firebird. I probably wouldn't have much of a connection to it, but he does. Whereas I remember, driving cross country with my dad in our 1982 Datsun 280ZX. So it's really about connections. It really is. Local and more nationwide.
Mm-hmm. And
so if you go to our website, and I didn't mean to cut you off there, Grant, but
that's all good.
If you go to our news blog site at gatewayclassiccars.com, you're going to see story after story about where we are helping to make dreams come true. One of the recent articles we pushed out or published was about a man buying a car for his wife. She was very deeply connected to her mother and her mother's Mustang, and he bought it for her as a surprise. And hearing that story, and that story is repeated over and over and over again, that's really what we get out of this. Another story out of our Houston area, we had a gentleman, his father-in-law, about 6 or 8 years ago, made one comment about what his dream car was. That was it. Fast forward to about 18 months ago, he's working on the phone with our showroom manager out in our Nashville showroom because we had that exact vehicle. The thing is this was Tuesday, and they were having a big surprise party for him on Saturday. Well, we needed to work out some of the logistics. We do work with top-rated transport people, but we had to do some, scheduling and make sure we could make everything happen. So Cody hung up the phone with the customer, and literally as he was hanging up the phone, one of the local transport guys that Cody knows really well walked in and said, "Hey, I'm going to Texas. You got anything going that way?" Literally, this happened all at the same time. As a matter of fact, yes, I do. Picked up the phone, got the son-in-law and the transporter. We got it all worked out, and it was there, and it was a very emotional video. Just watching that experience when he walked out and they handed him the keys. This is yours, and we see it a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can really sense that you care deeply about these cars and people's connection to them. And one thing I think is an important differentiation is a lot of people, they like the idea of doing something versus the actual reality of it. So, I mean, clearly making these transactions happen and like seeing a car being handed off to a good owner who's going to truly appreciate it, it moves you, I can tell. And I think sometimes people, they like daydream about having a certain job, like maybe being a musician or an artist or an entrepreneur or whatever, but they're not necessarily connected to the reality of that. Like, I guess, have you met people who they're trying to start a company, but you can kind of tell they're not quite, I don't know, they're not as passionate as they say they are, and like how do you think you can differentiate between liking the idea of something versus the reality of it?
So our owner, Sal, is extremely forward-thinking. He's very tenacious, but he shares what a lot of us have here is that passion. So when he was moving into this space for the company, a lot of it was really natural, just because of his passion from there. We've had to push through some economic turmoils in 2008, 9/11, the recent pandemic, and we pulled together, and he continues to lead us through all sorts of different business conditions. You talked about somebody starting a business and may not feel that they have thought it all through to the degree. Sal's looked at everything through his unique lens and put together really a recipe that makes for a successful and a very rewarding business. And he's tenacious. I mean, he keeps us moving forward. And regardless of the economy, regardless of national breaking news or gas prices or anything like that, he keeps pushing it through. And we learn our lessons, and we always adapt and change. But we do try to be on the forefront of that change as it comes to driving the listings. But it wasn't so much about order fulfillment. If you look on the internet, there are a lot of sites out there where they're just offering classified ads for vehicles for sale. There's a big difference in having that trust and connection, and it was his early successes and the reputation for the company in the environment and in the culture for the classic car community. It really helped us gain a lot of momentum. I mean, he deserves all of the credit for getting us where we are today and where we're going to be going in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Mm-hmm. And how did you come to meet Sal? I mean, clearly he's hugely important in this whole company. Like, how did you get to know him in the first place?
My previous career, I had been heavily on the print advertising and marketing side. And I had a front row seat watching the advent of the internet back when it was called the information superhighway.
Those were the days.
And so I actually was able to see that transition happen right in front of my eyes. And when I had an opportunity to talk with Sal and share some of the experiences that I've seen and listening to what his goals were, I really felt a good partnership as far as being able to take what we've both learned and turn it into views and engagement and ultimately passing along that passion.
Yeah, and clearly, like partnering and working with the right people is super important for being successful in any business, really. Like, do you have any advice for kind of choosing the right teammates, or just whatever terminology you want to use? Like, I've certainly had people in the past. I know we all have where. Like maybe at first it seemed like a good idea to pair up with this person, but then maybe it doesn't pan out. Like, what do you look for in somebody who you're going to be working with very seriously?
I like to find somebody that I have a real connection with. You know, whether it's in the heat of the day, handling calls or questions or anything like that, or if it's just winding down after work and getting to know each other on a personal level. I don't like the thought of a job. It's much more of a career. It's much more of a path. And I look to people at people that have that passion, that sense of humor, that sense of dedication, and really that drive to succeed. And it's not just a job. It's just not, I'm going to work here for a year or two until I pay off this loan, and then I'm going to go somewhere else. I really strive to my team is my family, and we've been through a lot over the last couple of years, especially with the pandemic, and we'll continue to be there to support each other. And it's that type of cohesion that it's tough to find. And so that's what I look for, is really somebody who can seriously not take themselves so serious and succeed and bring new ideas to the table. This is not a cookie cutter type of company. It is not a cookie cutter type of job. We don't do order fulfillment. Classic cars is where dreams are driven.
And especially like you guys cover a lot of bases. You mentioned earlier that it's not just about selling cars. You also host events and you're a part of communities. Clearly there's more to this than just kind of a one-dimensional business. And I'm sure that's part of it too. Like why the company has done so well is you've mentioned a couple times making connections and how that is hugely important. So do you feel like having these events that maybe are, I'm sure that also helps kind of monetize the company as well. If you're hosting certain events, people are paying for a venue or whatever. But do you feel like just kind of having that sort of like those events where it's easy to connect with people, like people are there in this cool environment surrounded by cool cars, it probably makes it easier to just make new connections and to bond with new people and kind of see what they're all about. They see what you're all about. And I guess this is just kind of me recommending to think differently to those listening that, you don't have to just hit one product. You don't just have to stay in one lane. Often there's a lot of other ways that you can succeed in whatever business you're doing. And I think thinking outside the box, especially when it comes to like hosting something where it's easier to meet people, that can be hugely important.
Well, and so we have a couple of different types of ways that we use our venues, our facilities to the community. On the last Saturday of every month, we have our spin on cars and coffee. We call it Caffeine and Chrome. And all of our showrooms around the country hold that same event from 9 a.m. to noon. At this location last weekend, or weekend before last for May, we had over 500 people coming out, and they brought their classics with them. And so that's how we can turn the connection between us and car clubs or us and car collectors into a presentation and engagement with the enthusiasts and the community. There's a lot of families that are bringing their kids down to see the cars, and they may not be a collector. They may not have that, that true connection. but it's something that people can enjoy as a family, or father son, father daughter, and there's commonality between all of that. But we also try to be a resource. Most of our showrooms, if you're in a car club and you want to have your group meetings, come on down to our showroom. We certainly love to have you. There is no cost to the car clubs. We have space available where you can get together once a month or once a week, however you want to do it, and handle your club business. And that's just us being accessible to the car clubs. When we have the opportunity to work with a car club or an entity to put on a show, we love having that opportunity to just for outreach. On the third weekend of May, we hosted here the second annual Firebird Fest. Now, the first Firebird Fest, we ended up with 153 Firebirds, and that was from a total of 12 different states. This year, they ended up with 256 Firebirds, Trans Ams, and they came from 31 states around the country. It was a full 3-day event. We had a Smokey and the Bandit impersonators here. They had a little police car chase in our parking lot, and it was just an amazing, amazing day. And that was how we connected with the I-55 Firebird Club. They had an idea. They had something that they were considering putting on and undertaking, and we were able to provide the resources and expertise and additional momentum to make that happen. So not only do we have our events, Caffeine and Chrome, at the last Saturday of every month, but if there's a particular car club or car group and they want to put on a car show to help raise funds for whatever cause or purpose in their local market, we're absolutely willing to be part of that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so I guess going into the whole YouTube strategy, you guys post a lot. I don't know if, I guess I've seen like news channels post as much as you guys. Was that part of your original strategy? Is that kind of a volume that you worked up to? What does it take to produce this volume of content? I know you guys have a lot of cars kind of in and out of your showrooms. But this is, I've seen a lot of YouTube channels in my day, and you guys have more uploads than I'm used to seeing by far. So can you walk us through like how you kind of stay organized through all this and how you've been able to produce this volume of content?
So every vehicle that comes in, it goes through its onboarding process. So we'll go through the vehicle, the equipment, the condition, and then we'll set up and we'll do the photo and video shoot. And from there it goes into editing, and then it gets published out. And we rinse, wash, and repeat over and over and over again. 70 to 100 cars each week are coming in. And it really is just having the process down so that it's efficient, and we're hitting the right aspects of the car that we want to showcase. So everybody in our showrooms, they've got the equipment and the editor resources so that they can take those pictures and take those videos and turn them into presentations in various forms. And it can be time consuming. Mother Nature not always working in our favor, so we do have to be flexible. But you might actually see where we would put out 10 or 15 videos in one day, and it might be 2 or 3 days later before we put out the next batch. But with the size and scope that we have from coast to coast, we've always got something coming up. We've always got something coming up new. And the reception and the engagement is just phenomenal. It's an opportunity, again, to showcase all the nuances and the passion of the vehicle to that audience, and it serves many different purposes. Production sometimes can be a challenge with elements and Mother Nature, but we've got the process. We're practiced. We know exactly what we need to do to get the job done. Yeah, the video platform is really interesting to see how it's evolved. And you know, we've learned, as I had said earlier, and instead of doing more of a quick walk around video and just posting it up, where it would be a quicker process, we've learned the recipe for what our audience and what our enthusiasts and our customers want to see out of the video, and that's really something that we do day in and day out at every one of our showrooms.
So when a car comes into the showroom and like clearly you've kind of mechanized and streamlined this process of producing a video for any car that comes through that you want to post online, like the car comes in and can you like get specific about like when the car comes in, how long does it take to start filming it? How do you know what you want to showcase with the car? Do you have like an editor at each location? Can you take us through the details here?
Absolutely. So yes, each one of our showrooms has the editing resources to handle everything that they need to on site. So when a vehicle comes in, we work with the owner. We gather as much information, as much detail, as much history about the vehicle, because they may be a single owner. It may have gone through several hands. They may have done some modifications, improvements, or restorations. And we want to be able to showcase and highlight that for the next person down the line. So once we've worked with the owner, we've gathered all of the information about the vehicle, then we will set it up. It's about 10 days, 10, 12 days to turn a vehicle around. Mother Nature can have a big impact on that, and it could be less, but it does take time with the volume of photos we take for each vehicle and the level of detail with the videos that we're putting in. We want to make sure that we're taking the time and we're not just throwing it together and throwing it out there. So if that gives you a little help of the timeline, because through that process, while we've got some team members out there taking the photos and taking the videos, we have our inventory staff that they're working on the write-up. How do we describe the vehicle to somebody and point out and highlight all of those unique things that go into making this vehicle?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you guys clearly know your stuff with each vehicle. Like even just reading your YouTube descriptions, I mean the paragraph is like this long and it has pretty much everything you could possibly need to know, whether it's like the engine, any kind of nooks and crannies of the car. You're hitting every keyword in YouTube for sure. And I mean that's amazing, especially with again with products like these. It's a decent amount of money. It is obviously important to really showcase everything in it. It's not like you're selling rubber bands or something super cheap or anything like that. So 10 days to make a video. That sounds about right to me. Just with the sheer volume coming through the channel, and also the attention to detail here and making sure you know everything there is to know about the car. That makes sense. I guess I was kind of originally I was confused how you were even able to produce all this stuff, but there's a lot of planning ahead, is what I'm gathering here.
And practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, practice makes perfect, as they say. Mm-hmm. So one thing that I really liked about your channel, you had a channel trailer where you talked about this car that you really loved. You learned to drive, I believe, with this car. Can you tell us about that car and your connection with it, and kind of how it formed your what you're doing today?
Well, I believe the video was about the GTO. And I will have to admit that connection was with another member of the management team. But I can tell you, I'll give you an example of my situation. If you remember me sharing back in 1980, I think it was 1983, I took a cross country trip with my dad, and I was at that age where, I wanted to learn how to drive. not quite there yet. I thought I was, but still in that area. And I remember as we're driving across country, it was a 1982 blue and gray Datsun 280ZX 2+2, and I'd asked my dad, hey, we can make better time if I can help drive. And so while I was in that phase of enjoying the time with him in the car, he would take me out to a big empty parking lot, and that's where he taught me how to drive stick shift. And even though I was still a couple of years away from being able to get my license, I was able to have that experience and feel the connection to the car and that time with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of years later, when I got my first car, it was not a Datsun 280ZX. But it was a manual transmission, and I think being able to drive a manual transmission is kind of rare these days. More and more
Definitely.
people, have never had the opportunity, but yeah, it's that type of connection. I currently have a 1980 Mercedes 450 SL. I got that from my father, and he passed away back in 2013. And the last year and a half or two, I am guilty of not enjoying that car as much as it deserves. I haven't had opportunities to really take it out and enjoy it. And I have been thinking over the last couple of years, maybe it's time for me to pass along. But I'm connected with that car with my dad. I'm not ready to get rid of it. And that is a very common scenario with the people I talk with is, I miss him. And, that car brings back a lot of memories and a lot of opportunities where, and it may not have been him and I driving the car any one particular spot, but conversations over the phone, just a mechanical, hey, what's this? What kind of parts did you use? It's an all-encompassing connection, and now I want to go out and go drive that convertible all around the parking lot today. But yeah, the connections are deep.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like that's what you should be doing for the rest of your day. Like that's really beautiful. I think it's kind of rare that people have that strong of a bond with a lot of things, I would say. But the fact that this car connects you to your dad so much, I think is really beautiful. And the fact that you are holding on to it, and there's a lot of trepidation with selling it. It definitely shows that you are in the right business for yourself. You're like, you understand what people are feeling when they're either buying a new car or kind of connecting with a car they already have. It's pretty amazing how deep these connections can go. And I'm sorry for your loss with your dad, and I'm glad you have this amazing car to kind of remember him with, and to drive around whenever you feel like it, and that's got to feel good.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. And to any other observer, it's just a 1980 450 SL Mercedes. So I could have two 1968 Mustangs sitting in my showroom, and with the exception of year, make, and model, those are the only things that they have in common. Every one of our vehicles are so unique in their own way, and that's where the YouTube presentation is absolutely vital for us to be able to share those nuances and share those, whether it's an original restoration or a resto mod, to find the right person. who's going to take that car and enjoy it downstream or down the road.
And do you do you ever have situations where somebody does want to buy a car, but you feel like they wouldn't be a very good owner, and you've kind of decided to go with somebody else?
No, I guess from the adoption agency thing, it's
Uh-huh.
not. We don't have a screening process. But I will tell you, I'm 6'5". I am not a petite flower, and I am frequently called out to the showroom floor and asked to get in vehicles because the customer working with, who might be out of state, they're not a petite individual, and they want to know, will I fit? And I've had pictures taken, belly to steering wheel, head to roof, all of those different things. And I do remember one situation. There was a taller gentleman who was interested in one of our AC Cobras that we had here. And so I went out, I got in it, and I could barely get my right leg underneath the steering wheel. And the way this particular build went, for my size and my leg length, I couldn't even get my feet to be able to separate and operate the vehicles.
Oh my God.
They were overlapping. And, so we were very upfront with the customer, and basically told the guys, he can't buy this. This is not going to be safe, and he's not going to be happy. Now, going back to what I said earlier about so many of these different vehicles having their own highlights and attributes, we had another Cobra in our showroom that I actually fit in perfectly. So, we had the opportunity to get that real-time feedback, and as well as make sure that the car literally fits the owner who's looking to get it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been shoved into a roadster, a dragster. Yeah, they usually like to find the smallest vehicle and see if I can fit in it.
Sounds amusing. Yeah, I have a friend who's 6'8", and him fitting into tiny cars is, it can be quite the process sometimes.
But it is important too for the person on the other end, especially because of a lot of the variations that go into whether it's a replica or restoration or a race and conversion. You want to make sure that you're going to be comfortable and able to operate and enjoy the vehicle.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And so, one thing I like to ask is if you could give one piece of advice for succeeding in building a company and on YouTube, what would it be? I know you mentioned passion and that you have to be passionate about it, but if there was anything else that you would recommend to somebody who is they're on the edge, they're like, oh, I want to start this thing, but I'm nervous and I don't know if I can do it. What would you tell that person to kind of nudge them towards doing it, assuming it was right for them?
Be passionate, be knowledgeable, know your audience, and be persistent. You may have a passion over a particular product, but if you don't know who else out in this world would also be able to enjoy that, you're going to have a hard time making connections. So definitely knowing your audience and being passionate about what you do helps you believe in everything you say and believe in yourself going forward. And that builds momentum. And, that type of belief and, real confidence in what you're doing, that's not something that can be contrived. That speaks for itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like something that is inherent to you, and it's it I guess can feel very obvious when it is there. For me, I started a YouTube channel 8 years ago. I've always wanted to make videos. I've been doing it since I was 12. It was always something I felt like I had to do. It was a connection I always had with the kind of creative process. And when it's there, it's there. And I think it also it makes things more effortless. You mentioned you don't like the idea of a job. More of a career is what you like to focus on. And I think when you are focusing on a career, you really do have to feel it deep in you. Otherwise, it's not going to last. Maybe you could work somewhere for a couple of years, but if you're really trying to build something that stands the test of time, I totally agree. You have to be passionate, knowledgeable, and to really make sure that it is connected with you enough to that you will be able to stick with it through even the rough times. When maybe
Absolutely.
things aren't going so well or they're more complicated than you thought they would be. That connection with the deepest part of yourself is hugely important.
And surround yourself with people who share that passion.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, why don't you tell people where they can find you, pitch anything you'd like to pitch, and all that good stuff.
So, as you said in the beginning, we are the world's largest classic car sales company. We have 20 showrooms around the country, and we're continuing to expand. We have 0 consignment fees. If you don't want to deal with the tire kickers or lowballers or auto dialers from posting your vehicle on Craigslist, if you don't want to meet somebody in a supermarket or coming to your house to take a test drive, our indoor showrooms offer that kind of security and that stability where we can make sure we find the right home. The other thing that we have is we have a literally unmatched marketing platform, with our website getting between 8 to 10 million views a month, plus our top tier partnerships in the auto vehicle sales channels. We find the right buyer for your car no matter where they are. And it could be somebody in Seattle at 3 o'clock in the morning that just got home from work. And that's why we rely so heavily on our digital presentation and the YouTube angle to give a real clear picture of what somebody would be looking for. And we have no plans to slow down, and I'm truly appreciative of the opportunities I've had with this company, and I look forward to be doing this for a long time.
Beautiful. Well, there you have it. Ken of Gateway Classic Cars. And thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed talking to you and hearing about how you've been doing this for 23 years. That's quite a long time. It's very impressive how far this company has come. And congratulations, really.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And www.gatewayclassiccars.com is our main website. Our Gateway Classic Cars YouTube channel, as you said, is always getting new videos posted to it. And you can follow us and like us on Facebook as well.
Right on. And there you have it, everybody. And make sure to follow, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And so that I can see you in the next one and we can have more awesome conversations like this. Bye, everybody.